I will like to welcome Professor Joya Chakraborty to initiate her thought process on ICT and SDGs.
Thank you, Navina. And I'm here ahead of time because of technical glitch at one end. So very rightfully, we are looking at the theme of today, which talks about information and communication technologies for development, and it's talking about sustainable development goals. So the very session probably is a proof about the situation, the enabling situation and the unenabling situation that we land up in. Okay, so I'm trying to weave my discussion around three key ideas, information and communication technology for development, uh, sustainable development goals, and a new idea that I'm trying to bring into it is to discuss about the Gandhian philosophy of development. So since morning we were talking about localization, we are talking about participation, and I also saw that this entire session, this conclave is being organized to commemorate the work of Hare Krishna Mahatab, who has been talking a lot about development from a very local perspective. He is also situated within the Gandhian ideology. So I thought that this would be appropriate to try and connect the philosophy of development that Gandhi talked about to these notions of information and communication technologies and sustainable development. So I will quickly try and go across how I approach this topic and connect these three themes to come at certain concurrent ideas. So the communication and development dialectic has been revolutionized with the advent of new age communication technologies. The rapid spread of information and communication technologies in the recent years is transforming how people communicate and exchange information with each other, and is having a consequent impact on the dynamics of social, political, and economic life. ICTs are crucial to reducing poverty. It is well articulated that it also helps in improving access to health, education, and also the e-governance services we know about. And it also helps in creating new sources of income and employment for the poor. So poverty reduction also again is an identified idea within the ICT4D discourses. So being able to access and use ICTs has become a major factor in driving competitiveness, economic growth, and social development. In the last decade, ICTs, particularly mobile phones of late, very recently, have also opened up new channels for the free flow of ideas and opinions, thereby promoting democracy and human rights. Inclusion or exclusion from this digital network has come to define the potential or lack thereof to leapfrog into a modern era, not only for governments, but also for its citizens. However, not all sections of society are able to take advantage of these opportunities. And we know about the concept of digital divide. So I will not get into defining digital divide because I believe everybody knows about it. But then the most important factor that came while understanding digital divide is that it is not just an access inequality. It is rather a multidimensional phenomenon with multiple gaps rolled into one, like gender divide, language divide, content divide, and many more. So investigations reveal that previous social inequalities influence the rise and persistence of digital inequalities. So we know as an Indian society the type of inequalities that we already have in our structure, and theory has already established that it kind of gets exacerbated when we are talking about a connection with the digital inequalities. So this new narrative, and it has added to this new narratives that we see talking about the digital natives, the digital immigrants, the digerati, the digital laggards. So all of that got into our lexicon, all of that has entered into our academic discourses with the understanding of the concept of digital divide in India. But maybe I will not go through each one of them, but just read a few to highlight that we have around 696 million smartphone users in India in January 2020. Of them. In India, only 38% women use mobile phones, while 71% men use mobile phones. So gender divide is there. In terms of internet access, we have been hearing about the problems that children are facing in terms of getting into the digital platform during the pandemic, that when entire education system has become digital, we are talking and we are saying that how much inclusion is possible. So multiple experiments are going on. In some places, we see that online classes are not possible. Hence, we have television channels like in Assam, in Kerala. There are television channels through which education is happening. So multiple technologies are being explored, and yet we are still facing a lot of problems. So we can say that it is an enabling agent, but there is a lot of problem which is associated with information and communication technologies. So concurrently, we also saw the development of the concept of digital capital. So with digital divide, we have also started talking about digital capital. So it's a new idea which in addition to the concepts of social, political, and cultural, personal, economic capital, we know of Bourdieu's ideas of these multiple capitals that he has discussed. So with that, we also have this idea of digital capital. So it insists on an interplay between digital capital and the other forms of capital to enable individuals to transform the digital resources into social resources and to exploit the full advantages offered by the internet. So digital capital is the accumulation of internalized ability and aptitude or digital competencies and externalized resources like digital technology. To clarify, it means that digital capital creates a bridge between the online and offline mode of opportunities for individuals. It allows individuals to build online competencies based on their other capitals, the social, cultural, political, etc. These online competencies then in turn again translate to offline externally observable social resources. So the idea of digital capital. I add to this another idea which of the psychological capital. But before I do that, I would also want to highlight here that we are talking about digital capital, but we still understand that when we are trying to measure our achievement in terms of the sustainable development goals, like information technology achievements is one side. On the other side, when we look at our national achievement of the sustainable development goals, there also the situation is not very, I would say, as expected. The Niti Ayog's evaluation of the achievement of sustainable development goals leaves a lot to be desired in terms of our overall achievement as a country, as well as the evaluation of the different state-wise ranking in terms of their achievement of the sustainable development goals. So that is the development context that we are looking at when we are talking about the potential of information and communication technologies or any other ideology of development that we are looking at. So since morning, we are hearing about participatory development. We are talking about gender inclusion. So multiple concepts of development and social change are there. But interestingly, we will have to look at all of that within these contexts, the situation within which we are situated as far as our achievement of the different development goals against certain internationally accepted pieces. So in addition to that, we are looking at, I'm proposing to look at this idea of psychological capital. So it is a sort of a technocentric criticism that I'm bringing to this discussion, where there are four fundamental characteristics of psychological capital, which talks about self-efficacy, hope, optimism, and resiliency. So these key factors are needed to form a psychological capital structure. Efficacy is a perception or belief regarding one's personal abilities, while optimism is a positive expectation, and therefore less related or connected to individuals' actual ability. On the other hand, hope is related to the attitude of mind or way of thinking, which plays a directive role in work performance. Lastly, resilience concerns positive adaptation and the ability to bounce back from adversity. So this is a concept of psychological capital, which before I get into to talk about Gandhi's ideology of development and where from we see the connections in terms of the different theoretical narratives that we have, the different theories of social change that we deal with in our academic discussions while doing our research or while understanding the progress and process of development in India. So I'll discuss Gandhian philosophy in connection with evolution of communication technology and sustainable development. Development that is inclusive and participatory. As I try to establish this connection, I also contend that it is essential not to lose sight of this connection if we are to ensure the establishment of Gandhi's version of Ram Rajya. We have seen that this has again returned to the political lexicon, I would say, that when we talk about the Gandhian philosophy and Gandhi's idea of Ram Rajya, which is nothing but a society based on truth and non-violence. I would want to emphasize on non-violence, saying that it is violence again is a multidimensional idea. We need not always look at just physical violence. Deprivation of opportunities, poverty is also a particular form of violence when we look at the different marginalized sections of the society. So let us understand violence in a broad idea and not necessarily just look at violence as a physical violence. Let us look at it as a broad concept. So it is a perfect democracy. Gandhi's Ram Rajya, it's a perfect democracy free of all sorts of inequalities based on possession or non-possession of assets, color, creed, race, or sex. Here, the villages are prosperous and self-contained, and the state belongs to people who enjoy freedom of speech and press. This is how Gandhiji explained his definition of Ram Rajya in an article dated 1st June 1947 in Haridwar. So Mahatma Gandhi had a very distinctive vision for national development, and his ideologies were always evolutionary in nature. His idea of satyagraha, which is based on truth, non-violence, and passive resistance, is strongly based on attaining self-consciousness. Gandhi's concrete understanding of mass consciousness was intricately related to his objective of social change, because without it, any attempt to attain mass empowerment would be impossible. So connecting self-consciousness, mass consciousness, and empowerment. We can see reflections of Freirian ideologies of concentration and dialogical pedagogy out here. So mass consciousness, according to him, was tantamount to soul force or truth force. He was a firm believer in the capacity of man to struggle and survive all hardships. His key principles included ahimsa, sarvodaya, satyagraha, and swadeshi. So ahimsa, the Sanskrit word for non-injury, that Gandhi expanded to include the principles of non-violence, truthfulness, and love for all. Sarvodaya, the principle of the self-development through service to others with emphasis on service to those in greatest need. Satyagraha, the principle of non-violent social change for addressing social injustice. Swadeshi, the principle of human scale and immediacy and material simplicity, and the corollary principles of non-attachment, non-stealing, and trust issue. Let us see reflections of all of these in the current government policies of development. When we talk about the Make in India campaign, we talk about going back to our villages. So we see a reflection of all of that in the current development paradigm that we are following within our national discourses. So Gandhi's ethical system, I know 5 minutes to go, sir. I saw the message from Professor Sanjay. I'll finish, sir, because I'm just trying to connect the ideas. So Gandhi's ethical system rejected the Western model of utilitarianism with its focus on the greatest good for the greatest number in the society. In contrast, Gandhian theory emphasized social justice as fairness to the individual with priority to disadvantaged people. Gandhi was against Western machinery-based industrialization and penetration of capitalism. He critiqued the self-righteous nature of the westernized model of modern civilization, as according to him, it lacked the capacity to for self-introspection and was morally vigorous. Gandhi was skeptical of technological growth, but that does not mean that he was entirely against all forms of technology. His emphasis on revival of the khaddar and the spinning wheel is a specific case in point. By placing khaddar as the uniform of the Indian patriot and by promoting spinning the charkha, Gandhi not only created a very powerful symbolism for nationalistic emancipation, but also emphasized the importance of the Indian craftsman. I'll just keep here because I emphasize that it's talk about the Make in India campaign. It's about reviving the Indian craftsmanship, and we see a connection to that and the relevance of that idea out. He was also understood to be against the railways, according to Gandhi, by facilitating migration of people from villages to cities, contributed to the breakdown of community living and to overcrowding of cities. So critique of urbanization, again, another discourse when what we are seeing after the pandemic, when we see that labor sources should be engaged in their home states only, and the problem of migrant laborer that we have seen very recently during the pandemic. So the speed of technology was disrupted, and the leisurely pace of life and its capacity for reflection, he said, got disrupted with the coming of technology and migration, which is created by the urban centers which are there. So there are also discourses in terms of where about the supremacy of mother tongue, the celebration of mother tongue, and we see even now in the reflection of the new education policy, we are talking about the importance of the mother tongue in education. So, and this is the connection that the problems with information and communication technologies, the idea of sustainable development that we are talking about, and why I wanted to emphasize Gandhi is that probably talking in terms of these popular narratives will make the discussions of development that we want to bring to communities more endearing for them. So in order to create a narrative which is more connected, these are probably the connections that we can see in the theoretical domain, and when we are trying to practice it within a field situation, the communication for development activities that we take forward. So that's the reason why I wanted to weave these ideas together. So with paucity of time, I would conclude here. Thank you.